Hey healers, hey, welcome. Welcome to my live stream talking about the truth about safe spaces. If you hear some noise in the background, it's my dog. She's right here playing. Welcome. Come on in, you guys. Drop your city, drop your zodiac sign. Hit that like button. It really helps my channel when you do that. Welcome. We're about to get into it. So I'm doing this as part of a new series that is going to be every month. I pick a different trajectory to explore. And the trajectory that I want to explore this month, it's really important that we start with what is safe spaces. What is a safe space? Oh my God, I have a mop in the background. That is so wrong. Hold on. Wish I could start this over. This is so funny. I feel very unprepared, but the thing about being unprepared is that honestly, who gives a fuck? Honestly, who gives a fuck? It's part of unmasking, and so it's interesting because a lot of people want to talk about accessibility and creating safe spaces. But what about a space where you really can be like messy and vulnerable and unmasked? Because I don't seem to think that just calling a space a safe space makes it that. The spoiler alert for this video is that the safe space is what you make it. You actually have to feel safe in your own body. And the majority of people aren't even safe in their own relationships or their own families. So how can you really promise a safe space to anybody when you're creating a holistic healing space or a coaching space or a teaching space or anything like that? You really can't, honestly, because the person's experience doesn't have to be your experience. So you might think that you're creating a safe space, but it may not feel that way to that person, and it may not be through any fault of your own, because that might just be that baggage that that person already comes with. And that's part of being a compassionate leader and a compassionate healer and coach, is that you see that this person is working with a worldview that is hurting them, and you're prepared to lead them out of it no matter what it is. And so this is why we're starting this conversation with a safe space and grounding in a safe space, because we are going to be talking about worldviews and how they affect how people look at the world. And there's such a thing as confirmation bias. So when you have a strong confirmation bias that tells you that the world is a certain way, it's going to be very hard for you to see anything outside of that. Like if you think that, for example, like in the case of racism, which is what we're going to be talking about in this series, and why I want to ground into a safe space, because it's hard enough to have these type of conversations with people that you're actually close with, let alone strangers on the internet. And it seems to be that the majority of people having the most contentious conversations on the internet are actually not loving each other in real life. And I feel like that's something that sets me apart from a lot of people. It's like I'm actually love it. Like I'm lovingly saying everything that I'm saying. And so for me to hold my own and hold this space, I want to let you know what exactly my conception of a safe space is. Because what happens with me, with the type of work that I do, whenever somebody doesn't like me or doesn't like my personality or something that I'm saying, especially if there's somebody else that's a competitor in this field, because yeah, it's so cute. We want to be colleagues and be friends. And no, these are your competition, bitches. Like, they don't really fuck with you like that. They want to know what you're doing and why. And if they're not, that's why I've always had such strict boundaries, because it's like, if you're not signing up for my class, for my course, to come in here and learn from me and learn from what I'm already doing and be part of a healers community that I've cultivated, I really have no reason to fuck with you, because why would I? Because you're clearly my competition. And then at that point is when people try to be friends and they don't really realize and see the succubus demon that's trying to drain others to feed their energy body, which is disconnected from its source, which is God and the earth. So we're going to get into a lot of conversations on my channel and on my page that have to do with some very deep things. And for me to be able to feel safe and have a safe space for myself is things that I need to put out in the open right away, so that everybody knows what they're getting when they deal with me, because I shouldn't have to cater to other people's projections. That has nothing to do with me. And often, because I've just been there, I've been the one that's absorbed a lot of pain for people that other people have left, because they were actually safe with me. And that's the crazy thing about a safe space, is if you are a safe space, you're probably more than likely to get the majority of the hatred from people claiming to need a safe space because they've never actually been safe enough to express how they feel. And they've gone through so many different things that they have never been able to tell anybody, and now they're able to tell you. And it does have a specific factor when it comes to racial healing, because that is something that a lot of people are seeking within their interracial relationships, but they're not often actually able to achieve it. And that's where you end up creating more slave bloodlines, and bloodlines that are beholden to the status quo instead of truly revolutionary, which they actually could be. And so this is the thing where people get confused when a lot of times when people talk about pride in their race or in their ethnicity, people get it confused and think that they're saying that everybody else is bad. And that's not necessarily true. They're saying that they are good. But the fact that they even have to say that in the first place is the problem, because why do you even have to have pride? Because you've been denigrated. And anybody is capable of denigrating others. So it really irks me when I hear things that, like, a lot of times people say that a place is a safe space, but really it's just a space of conformity. Because when I hear people say things that are very disingenuous to me, like, for example, people of color can't be racist or anything like that, I just honestly, that part irks me, because then people try to make the distinction between discrimination, racism, colorism, and all these things. It doesn't fucking matter. Do you think that these linguistics matter to people that barely speak English? They don't. And that's the bridge that I cross between so many people, where they're so stuck in their worldview, they've never seen anything outside of it before, so they're locked into thinking that that is correct. And most of the time, if you hear any criticism, it's actually really anti and really, potentially genocidal and very hurtful, but it's not usually coming from a place of love. But the crazy thing is that the unsafety that a lot of people feel is what was conditioned into them at a very young age by their own family members. So then if they try to go out into the world, they're just reflecting that back no matter who's looking at it. So it doesn't matter how safe the space is. What's actually happening is a reflection of that person's inner world. And I've seen it in a mushroom trip where I've seen my kaleidoscopic consciousness from the inside of my third eye, and seen how I was projecting like a kaleidoscope my entire reality. And there was places that it was not clean and it was distorting my vision, and that those were directly from generational curses. So that's why I devote my energy to breaking generational curses, and I have the ability to set the boundary that I only fuck with people that are dedicated to breaking generational curses as well. And I don't care what race, ethnicity, gender, or whatever you are. Because to me, all of you guys are genderless aliens, and I don't even look at you the same as the way that the majority of people look at one another. So I'm looking at you for your vibes and your energy more than anything. And but I still have my own cognitive bias and my perceptions, and that's why I developed a whole protocol to cleanse that from myself. And it works. It is so crazy, because the way that I see the world is way different than the way that I used to see the world. And it benefits me so much more. The way that I see the world now benefits me so much more. And I see so many people that do self-sacrificial things in the name of creating a safe space and creating safety for others when they are not safe themselves and they don't feel good in the space. And I did that with my whole freaking business. So this is why I say sometimes, like, as women, like, we are often little girls playing house in our business. We're not being grown up. We're not making grown up decisions. And that's something to look at. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because when I look at why I developed my business is because I needed a safe space, because I wanted a safe space. And I will never forget, the manager of the spa that I worked at in Atlanta was the most hated person in the spa. She was the manager. So she was over everyone there. She had a boss that she reported to, but that person was never there. Okay. So do you guys see how these hierarchies work? This is what you're getting when you're coming to a mentor. And this is the thing that a lot of people don't understand when they're asking for a safe space or wondering if a space is going to be safe for them, is that what they're really communicating. And especially when they try to go against the space that's being created or the mentor that is creating it. Now, it's not a bad thing to have dissent and to challenge authority at all. And I deeply protect that space. That's why I have a community space for everything that I do. There's a community space. Not only that, but there's the comment section. So, and not only that, but my DMs have always been pretty much open except for when I get overwhelmed, and then I have to create a safe space for myself. And I show you guys what it looks like to create a healing business in action that heals you and heals other people too. And it's not easy. It's not what people think it is. I'm not a customer service representative. I'm a real ass bitch. And I'm really going to tell you what the fuck it is. And so this is a space that I have to take, because sometimes just asking a simple question is enough. Sometimes asking a simple question is enough to truly break someone, or making a simple statement is enough to truly break someone. Okay, for example, when I made the statement, if you can't control your fertility, you're not a witch. You're not a witch if you can't control whether or not you get pregnant or not. Do you know how many people were deeply upset and borderline traumatized by me saying that to them, because they hold their witchcraft and their magical practice so dear to them, and yet they still need a fucking plan B? I'm not afraid to tell you the harsh truth. And I have to put my personality on display like this because it's my fucking personality. And if you're coming to me, this is what you're going to get. So this is what I do to create a safe space for me. And this is how I protect my sensitivity, because my sensitivity has been violated. But people can only violate your sensitivity if you let them. And that is where you grow into a grown-ass woman instead of a little girl playing house. And your business is a place that you can beautifully practice at. So let's chat. Let's take some questions and have some conversations about what is a safe space and how do you define a safe space. Because I feel like I already said everything that I feel about that. So a safe space is what you make it. And the process of creating a safe space inside of yourself is brutal. And everybody can't do it. And it's what separates people that are protectors of their bloodlines from people who are living with a slave mentality. Not to use the word slave to describe it, because for some reason people want to say that I can't talk about slavery because I'm not Black, as if Arab people didn't come from slavery, like we're not created from that. And then there's the whole storyline that we did slavery first. How convenient that is a storyline in a country that creates the majority of its wealth from looting and pillaging our countries. And why do you think they do that? And why do you think that they have so much restrictions and issues with the Middle East, quote unquote, Southwest Asia and North Africa, but none of these fucking continent names really are real and they don't matter? So to have people say that I have to acquiesce to what they think is proper and historically accurate in order for me to create a safe space means that categorically it is not a safe space for them, because it is pushing against the boundaries of what they deem as reality. So you are the only one that can choose what is a safe space for you. And if you're safe with somebody, then you better be able to hold your own with them. And if you can't hold your own with them, then go where you can and where you feel comfortable and safe. Like, you don't always have to be pushing up against something. And that is a really crazy thing that I learned from being a teacher, is that because of the way that society is structured and that people are constantly forced into situations that they don't want to be in just to survive, they feel like that's what they just have to do. And they will literally put themselves with people that they fucking hate and can't stand just because they think that that person is their ticket to wealth. That is so crazy how a lot of people do that. They really live like that. And if you come from a background of sex work, of being a stripper, or being in environments where, yeah, that is literally what you're doing. And this is the thing that makes it so much easier to start with your shadow work when you've already been in sex work, is because you already have been saying, okay, yes, my energy is so dope and my personality is so great and I'm so willing to put others at ease and put others' needs to the forefront, that yes, you will pay me adequately for my time. And if I need to raise my rates in order for it to be adequate, I will. And I'm going to set these boundaries, and I'm not going to let people have access to me without them meeting the standards that I have. For example, a dominatrix is a person that is probably the most likely to create a safe space for you. But in my case of working as a professional dominatrix, I didn't give a fuck about creating a safe space for the client. I gave more of a care of creating a safe space for myself, because I already know that I'm more likely to consider others ahead of myself and more likely to put their needs. And that is actually what's happening in a lot of professional domination, where people don't really realize that they think that it's a safe space for them because they're in control. So a lot of times sex workers go to professional dom work after being assaulted as escorts or as strippers. That's where they, or you might meet your clients as a dom in the strip club, because they're wanting something that a lot of girls won't provide. And once you get to a certain point, they recognize in you that you have the ability to not give a fuck and really take it out on them. So it seems almost as if that what is happening is empowerment for you, but what often happens in those situations is that there is strong mind control at play. But we're going to get into that in a little bit. So I'm going to see what you guys are talking about. Hello. Hey, boo. I love you. Yeah. You know what it is. Safe is different for everybody. You can't make that guarantee. Exactly. For someone to say that they're creating a safe space, they're manipulating you. So I just want everybody to get clear on that right now. Can we all get clear on that and say it together? Like, they're manipulating you. This is a safe space. No, the fuck it's not. You don't know what the fuck is going on in there. Do not come into any space assuming that it's safe. That's a delusion that you want in order to feel like you're going to have something that you never had before. And that usually stems right back to your parents not creating a safe space for you. So you get easily drawn in and easily manipulated by someone who's saying that they are creating a safe space for you because it's something that you never had. It's something that you can only create for yourself. Nobody else can create it for you. Boom, period. Drops mic. I have to yell at you guys because I'm hearing the reverberations of the sounds within myself first. And this is a message that I greatly need, because I keep me safe. And the process that I've gone through to be able to keep myself safe from being a stripper, getting drugged in the club, getting drugged and abducted off fucking Bourbon Street on Mardi Gras with my friends, gay males. And after I had just escaped from my fucking polyamorous relationship with my ex-girlfriend and her girlfriend. And you guys wonder why I don't fuck with that gay shit no more. It is not fucking safe and it's not fucking solid. So fuck that and fuck y'all. I don't give a fuck what you feel about it. And you're not going to change my fucking mind. So that's another thing, creating a safe space. How many people are even safe in their home? Are you safe in your home? Are you safe with your partner? Are you safe with your parents? Do you have to constantly fight and battle emotional manipulation every step of the way in order to even deal with the people closest to you? Because that's a problem. And you're choosing that if that is the case. And that's why I don't have a lot of sympathy for people. And I have to put it all out there raw and raw dogging in reality with y'all. Because I'm not like everybody else, because I literally have been disowned from my whole fucking family. I'm not going to get all intense about it. It's fine. I'm like, it's fine as the world is going up in flames. Like, it hurts so bad. It hurts so bad. And it's just crazy. Like, it's just crazy. Like, it's crazy that the only time that we come together is at a fucking funeral. And the rest of the time, it's like we don't exist to each other. But I learned my lesson from trying too hard to create that safety in my family that they never had the ability to give to me, because they were not safe within themselves, because they're fucking refugees. So how are you going to promise safe space to people that are fucking refugees? You can't. They're not safe. The war is inside. You carry the war inside of you. And this is the thing with me, with being Arab, which is why, like, it's been so crazy. Like, I never knew how much that I had assimilated, because I just never had access to my culture. But now, as a spiritual healer, people want access to my culture. So they want to make it a thing where I teach them about me and my culture, but they're really just fucking vampires, and I'm not going to. And that's why I named myself Sarada Muladhara as a fucking joke, because yes, my bloodline is definitely Sumerian and definitely it's descended from ancient lands that spoke Sanskrit. And I just find it funny how Like, it's a thing. This is why you can't promise that you create a safe space, okay? Because this is a perfect example. You are a white woman wearing a turban who did yoga studies in India, and you call yourself Swami Maharaji. That's just something really stupid. I don't know what that even means. So just please don't be mad at me. But no, I'm just saying, like, say this person is promising to create a safe space, but there's like a person that is Indian, that is from India, that practices yoga culturally and religiously. Like, that is not going to be a safe space for that person. It's for that person to be safe in that space. The amount of like the amount of inner work that all parties involved would have had to have been doing would be so immense that it's almost impossible. And I love a challenge, so that is what I seek to create with the community that I create with Heaven on Earth, because we are so diverse, and we're so diverse on purpose. And the reason that we can be that way is because I've lived my life as one with diversity. Like, my parents are two different ethnicities. I've always grown up and been around people of all different religious backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, socioeconomical backgrounds, gender expressions, and sexuality. Like, I've been exposed to so many different things throughout my life experiences. The experiences that I've had, and if you guys have followed me for a while, you know me, you've been able to see, and if you don't know me, you'll be able to find out if I just tell you very much small pieces of myself. And this is the thing that what a lot of people don't understand, is that they want to have a safe space, but they have not done the work to actually allow people to feel comfortable being themselves within the space. And they don't even know how to do that, because there's nothing in society that promotes that, because society promotes violence against one another in order to keep everybody in line with the status quo. And it uses people and pits people against one another in order to make them fall in line. And who and how you experience that is going to be different depending on who you are. But for you to be able to actually let that shit go is the hugest accomplishment ever, because that is what makes life worth living, is forgiveness. And as crazy as that sounds, I know, because I used to hate so many people for so many things. For example, I'm Palestinian, and there's a story that Israel has colonized Palestine. I mean, yeah, it's like we can see clearly what's happening. But when you really can see clearly what's happening, and then you see behind that, and then you see behind that, and then you see behind that, then you can really see what's behind that. Don't let it go over your head, because you're the only one that has control of your mind. And if anything else has control of your mind, then you're not even in control of your life or anything. So no, you're not a witch if you can't control whether or not you get pregnant, because I can control whether or not I get pregnant with my mind. And my mind and my body will tell me exactly what to do to keep that from happening. So if you're feeling called out by anything that I've ever said, and you feel that that means that I'm the problem and I'm not safe, then go somewhere else, because I'm confident I don't have to convince anybody. Yes, I would say being able to speak up without facing retaliation and being demonized is a must. I'm working on creating safety for myself, dropping so many gems already. Yeah, and it's so important that you're able to create that safety for yourself so that you can speak up, because that's really the issue, and that's where a lot of these dynamics that create unsafety in relationships come from, is because of those fears and the inability to speak up. So what I spoke on recently was the fact that this whole concept of the narcissist as a demonization of a person who you likely were in an intimate relationship with and obviously loved or love still, but try to create that distance between you and that person by labeling them as something bad when they're just your mirror. It's creating a culture in which people are avoiding accountability, and it just feeds so much into the culture that is already pre-existing, that promotes victimhood consciousness. Oh my god, I need someone to save me. Oh my god, times are tough, I can't make enough money, I need welfare. So they make this a racialized thing, but it's really not. And it's so crazy how if you are beyond the point of racialization, which I'm not saying you don't see color, that's not the thing. That's not the thing. You really see it to the extreme degree. To the extreme degree. You see it all the way through to the soul, to the rainbow crescent and the iridescent kaleidoscope that makes up a person. All their star matter and dark matter and rainbow prism mentality, like everything that you can see in a person. This would be the type of thing that someone would be like, they're just the spiritualists are speaking a word salad. So the fuck what? Because we're speaking a colonizer's language. So the fact that I'm even saying this in English makes it not a safe space for so many people all over the world right away because they can't understand it. I could just turn this video off right now because I just totally dismantled the whole entire concept of a safe space. Period. There's people all over the world that don't even know what the fuck I'm saying right now. And there's people that are all over the world that are traumatized by this specific language from people speaking it to them in a mean way, in a harsh way, in a horrible way, in a colonizing, in a slavery way. But guess what? There's other languages like that. It's not just English. That's the crazy part. This is the crazy part that I have to do with my work, specifically from the consciousness of people of color. Because for me, I don't see things in black and white. When I came to the consciousness of being a person of color, that resonated with me so deeply that it made me feel so happy because I never had that space within any community that I had ever been part of because I'm not white. I'm not fully like Arab the way that Arab people are supposed to be, speaking fluent Arabic, being modest, everything that comes from my culture that is what I'm not, and I've never been good enough. And because of being an American, being born in a different country, being seen as privileged, all these things that people will try to say to diminish me online, that the reason why that these things have gotten to me so deeply is because they literally reflect my upbringing and my family and reasons why I don't even feel comfortable in my own family. So to see them reflected when I try to go to work in my business is not a surprise at all because it's literally my life and this is what people don't understand. And so for me to even be able to create a safe space, it's for me to have a safe space. There's so much uncovering and undigging that I have to do within my own life experience of what has hurt me when I've just tried to shut it off, repress it, do drugs, smoke weed, drink, party, make money, think about other people, fall in love. Okay, that's another like segue. Love is not a safe space. The majority of people that are getting abused, assaulted, raped, molested are doing so within their own family unit in their own home. So what do you even know about a safe space? Think about a person who has never experienced a safe space at home trying to create a safe space for someone else. You can't. So then you start to need to have more compassion with people for how they act, but at the same time set your boundaries that you can act like that over there. And I know many people have had to set those boundaries with me as I have had to set those boundaries with other people, and I'm not ashamed and I'm not sorry. And I respect your boundaries, and you respect my boundaries. Good, we good. Then we good. And then we have safety because we've created that for ourselves because we have spoken up and we said what we needed to do, what we needed to feel safe, and we've moved ourselves around to go to the safe space that we feel safe in. And that's a concept that I never really understood about safe spaces because I had never had a safe space. So I would just throw myself into any given situation and then wonder why it wasn't safe because I had no idea how to create safety for myself. But I was looking for someone else to create it for me. I wanted to outsource my safety to someone else because that is a coping mechanism when you're dealing with these Stockholm syndrome, sex slavery curses, when you have a bloodline that has been generationally passed around, like when back in the day when if a motherfucker wanted a wife, he had to fucking kidnap her or breed her. And we wonder why shit is the way it is, and we can't even have a deeper conversation beyond white people versus black people. And this is the crazy thing. I'm sorry, you guys. This is so crazy for me to even say those words, it's so like low vibrational. Like, I know you heard it, because that is creating not a safe space already. Because to pin things on white people or to pin things on Black people is not creating a safe space, and people are going to be immediately triggered when they hear that, and especially when they hear it come out of my mouth. They're going to have to log off. They're not going to be able to see it. They might have to come back to it later. It might trigger them so deeply that they like remember it for forever. And that is the burden of influence that I possess, where we always see celebrities getting called out for different things, for like colorism, racism. In the case of Nicki Minaj, where if she makes a comment about having good hair, or like being light skinned or being a different ethnicity or something, there's people, Kim Kardashian is another person. Like, if she wears cornrows, if she wears braids, or if she just looks in a style that is too much like it's emulating Black women, then that's an issue. Like, so all these conversations are being had. Doja Cat, mulatto, like all these conversations are being had within the pantheon of the public eye. But then when it comes to private space that we share together as women of color, women of all different colors, people are very uncomfortable having these conversations. And that is why the spiritual community is so segregated, is because people need the space to be able to have those conversations where they're not going to be so triggered that they have a fucking meltdown and they can't even go back to work. What are you going to do if you work in an environment in which you have to play respectability politics with other people? It's going to be very challenging to deal with that if you have something like a rupture like that in one of your interpersonal relationships. And I think one of the things that people are looking for in a safe space is they're looking for the world to not be what they thought it was going to be, or what they've been told that it's going to be. They're looking for the world to be better than what they thought. So in the case of interracial relationships, where you really like a lot of people have past life connections, and that's a thing with interracial relationships as well as monoracial relationships. So that's always going to be there and be present. But then when you're looking at it with the consciousness of like this now time space reality, this current political moment, with the conditionings that our brain has received in order to acquiesce to this moment, there's a feeling that I think that a lot of people have when they choose friendships and partnerships that are outside of their racial group, which is that they want racism to not affect them. They want to have proof and evidence that racism isn't as big of a deal and it doesn't affect them and it's not holding them back. And I think that's like a really beautiful need and a beautiful desire for people to go towards, because it shouldn't be a thing. It shouldn't be a factor. It shouldn't affect you. Like, no matter who you are and what you look like, whether you're freaking pale, it's like super pale and white as a ghost, and that's what you've always been mocked for, or whether you have deep skin tone and you've been mocked for that. People don't want to think that it's the same thing, because a lot of people benefit from like the separation consciousness, because in the society that we live in, that is what is promoted. So the more that you promote separation consciousness, the more that you are grandfathered in to wealth in this society, because it's built upon this separation consciousness. For example, one of the main tenets of this society is that people can't govern themselves and they need outside governance. So that is the foundation of patriarchy, is that because in matriarchy, you raise children and you raise everyone around you to be able to govern themselves and to not need you, because you need your space and you need time and you need your own energy to yourself. So you actually, under matriarchy, you actually cultivate that. You actually cultivate that. And that's why like patriarchy is not exactly natural. But the thing about it is that's not even a separation. There's no separation. There's no matriarchy versus patriarchy. They work together in union like a yin yang. They flow with each other. You feel me, I feel you. You care for me, I care for you. You take care of me, I take care of you. You give to me, I give to you. But the way that we give to each other and that we care for each other is different. And it is in alignment with who we are. And that's what is needed to create a safe space. So, for example, a lot of men are not safe in a lot of safe spaces. And a lot of people think that this is a woman's only space, so it's going to be safer, but not necessarily. Like, it's actually could be very dangerous emotionally and reputationally. Like, there's so many ways that women endanger one another through jealousy and catty behavior and codependency that they're not aware of, and they're not willing to be held accountable for. And that's why they need the distance from men, because men will just see that shit right away and they'll call it out and they'll be like, and they're like, it is so funny. So there's such a thing as a female rage demon, which is what makes a lot of relationships unsafe. Which the female rage demon, the presence of the female rage demon is what a lot of people fear when they're trying to like have a place be a safe space. We can talk about that more about that later because I want to check in on the comments. I feel safe in this space because we can be real, and that's what matters most to me. Yeah, because I'm never gonna like, if you guys ask me a question, I'll tell you the truth, my honest to God opinion of what I really think, and I'm not sorry. And I think that in this society, it's really messed up because I went to college. Like, I come from a background where I come from an arts and culture background. I majored in printmaking. I went to university. I went to American school, K through 12, public school. I learned all the propaganda. And I was on a arts and culture track, not a math and science track, because that's my feminine energy. Not to say that you can't be feminine and be on a math and science track. That's not true at all, because that's like that's a whole nother energy. But that's how my feminine energy displays. And the cool thing about it too is that the more strong your feminine energy is, the more strong your masculine energy is. And the more strong your masculine energy is, the more strong your feminine energy is. So most people, they kind of like deny these energies because it's not safe to be them in this society. And how can you claim that a space is safe when society is not safe? You're not even safe to be yourself. So in the case of autism, this is a trending topic where people are diagnosing themselves and being diagnosed with autism in adulthood. It's different than children who are like nonverbal and who are being diagnosed with autism. Who personally, I feel like a lot of those children have decided that their families are not. This is gonna rub a lot of people the wrong way. So this is why like I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say I'm an equal opportunist, but like I'm just gonna tell you guys what I really think, and I can stand behind anything. And the thing is that a lot of times people will preemptively want to assume that you don't know what you're talking about if you say something that disagrees with them or that triggers them or hurts them. Especially in the case of me, because like somebody would be like, "How dare you speak on something that you haven't experienced? Like, you're not a mom, you can't speak on parenting, you're not this, you can't speak on that." Well, you don't really know what I know about anything until I tell you, and it's my platform, so yes, I can. That's part of creating a space for me. Is like I'm an Arab Muslim Palestinian person. I grew up in a family like that's like didn't let me talk and didn't care what I thought and was always like criticizing me and like telling me all the reasons why I'm not good enough. Like, people do not understand what it's like for us. This shit is so crazy. Like, they think that everything is just so easy because of how we look. Like, like, imagine the meanest people ever that you've ever met in your life that have bullied you the most, and they're your aunties. Oh my god. But I have some really sweet aunties, so I'm not gonna like lump them all together. But like, just imagine like the meanest people that you've ever met in your life, they're your family members. Like, come on. And then for me, this is why I've had to create my own safety, my own safe space, because I didn't have a safe space. Because not only like it's like when you're born and people are already jealous of you, a lot of people think when they see somebody talking about haters or about people being jealous of them on the internet, they think that that's cap and that person is just full of themselves. But they don't understand that some people are literally born with haters because they're born in a better situation, better off than other people in their family. And those family members are jealous of them already. And it's very weird and it's very complicated. And a lot of people are not going to have the ability to actually go within and question, why am I jealous of a child? Why am I jealous of a baby? Because they're not going to be able to feel that. Okay. So the next topic. I don't need someone to be fake nice because we live in a tiptoe world and it's a crime to offend. And that's why I'm willing to take the weight of whatever. If I offend others, it's honestly not something I want to do. I really don't want to offend anybody, but I can't keep myself from speaking in fear that it's going to offend somebody else, because the thing about that is it definitely will, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with me or mean that I'm hurting that person or I'm a bad person. It means that that person is dealing with something that probably has nothing to do with me. And what I find the most often is that in situations when people do pile on me or try to drag me or whatever, try to take me down, they're dealing with something personally to where they can't deal with it, and they somehow project onto me that I don't also deal with that same thing because of who I am. And I've seen this over and over and over and over again with people, and that's why I don't have a lot of patience for it. So I can't create a safe space for you if your version of me creating a safe space for you is letting you take your aggression out on me, because I actually am a safe place. Because I actually am a safe place. Because think about it, would you go to take your aggression out on somebody that wasn't safe? No, because they would attack you. But many times I have attacked people back for taking their aggression out on me, and I've mostly regretted it, but sometimes I haven't. I needed to go through the process to regulate myself into my own, knowing my own protective instincts so that I can understand. Because when you deal with family dynamics or interpersonal dynamics in which you have to receive like abuse and neglect and you can't do anything about it, that often causes you to shut down your own protective instincts. That's where you go into the freeze state, and you go into like basically like what I think it's called a dorsal vagal shutdown. Basically, it's like your nervous system shuts down. That's when you can't move. That's when you need to smoke a lot of weed. Like all you can do is just smoke weed. You can't move. You just want to sleep because your nervous system is just it's been so overstimulated because of having to be constantly hyper vigilant and have this constant like fight response to like protect yourself, that like when you find out that you can't protect yourself anymore, and it's basically there's no point, you just get so tired, you get worn down. And that's how it shows up later, because sometimes people don't really remember what happened, or they might remember but they think it wasn't that bad, it was just normal, especially if it's culturally sanctioned as normal. They might think whatever happened wasn't that bad, and then it just basically weighs heavy on them later in life where they can't move, they have no energy. And even if you use like workaholism or activity or being overstimulated as a coping mechanism, eventually that means that you'll burn out. And usually when burnout happens, that's when people have symptoms of BPD, bipolar, when they have psychotic breaks. And that's why I don't believe in any of those labels, because none of that would have ever happened if you hadn't gotten so overstimulated and so worn down to the point of having to snap. And depending on who you are, it changes what you experience that wears you down. So your experience is very specific and it's worth speaking on, and mine is too. And that's why I take up the space in my platform to speak on what I've experienced. And I've experienced a lot of like verbal abuse and reputational abuse for like being myself, where people would accuse me of the things that they were doing to me, but they really couldn't see. But I couldn't see either. So that's why I really took the time. I was in isolation mode for the past like 5 years. What is it? Like since 2017. 2017 is when I went into isolation mode. And that's when I started Sacred Stripper, my Instagram page, where I talked about being a stripper and experiencing sexual abuse. And I posted sexy pics and talked about being molested. And people were like, "How did you get so many followers?" And I was like, "That's how." Because people are voyeuristic and they want to know secrets. And so I'm like, okay, fine. What do y'all bitches want to know? I have nothing to hide. So since 2018, I channeled the healing mind control ritual. And it's really interesting because I channeled it as a full moon ritual. But working with the moon and spending so much time with the moon, that's when I started to learn its secrets. And I started to learn that the moon isn't even what they say it is. It's a satellite. There's so many different theories, and this is why we need the space and the safety to be able to express ourselves freely, no matter what we're gonna say, no matter what who don't like it, no matter who's annoyed or irritated by it or inconvenienced by it, because they don't have to look, they don't have to be there, and they could actually just go on about their business. That's one thing that I've learned from spending a lot of time in the New Orleans French Quarter, because yeah, a lot of people are psychic mediums, but they're not psychic mediums in the New Orleans French Quarter. And you hear a lot of things down there. And one of the things you might hear is anybody saying anything at any time of day and screaming at the top of their lungs or having a fight with someone that's not there. And what are you going to do? Is that unsafe for you? Like, is that person a threat to you? This is a funny thing, is that what is what is unsafety? What is unsafe to a lot of people is an excuse for increased police brutality and militarization. For example, the case of Israel and Palestine, you know, and I don't even care. I'm really telling you guys, I don't even care. It's crazy how much I don't care, but I still have a little twinge of, like, I guess I don't know if it's Palestinian pride or what it is, because I've it's not Palestinian pride. It's just so weird. It's like these labels are not that old. So for me to actually to make me care about this military excursion that is going on, like, it doesn't feel real to me, because I remember when it wasn't, and I remember when it won't be. So I'm just coming at it from a different perspective, and I feel like it's so limiting. And I do feel like that I was specifically chosen to go on the track of college and of studying these things, because people think that ethnic studies is a good thing. They think that critical race theory education is a good thing. They're indoctrinating children and young people into thinking that that is the ways of the world. And it's really patriotism that upholds the status quo and upholds state violence. And it upholds it interpersonally with each other. And I am the perfect person to have developed the protocol that I've developed, because I've had to reclaim my mind. Even when it comes to creating a safe space for myself, like, I am a woman. I'm a woman that is a woman of color, and my mother is a white woman. So in an environment in which it seems that there's these unfair racial disparities between white women and women of color, and women of color will be quick to tell you all the differences and the benefits that women of color have versus white women. And now in the current society that we have, a lot of white women feel a lot of guilt and they feel a lot of shame, because they feel responsible, like they've done something wrong. There was the whole storyline about how white women overwhelmingly voted for Trump. um, it was such a false narrative and a false dichotomy, because the choices was between Trump and Biden. Who was the choices between? I don't even fucking remember, because that's how little much I care. Because it literally has no bearing on my everyday life. And I have the same birthday as Donald Trump and Beyonce as twins. And if you guys wasn't paying attention to that, it's like all these things are just more storylines for the Greek pantheon of gods and goddesses. Like, this shit is not new. It's very old. And there's such a thing as trickster spirits. They will do things and they will say things that might lead you to believe something, but the reason why they're leading you that way is not the reason why it looks to everybody else, or why it may even seem to you, because you're not omnipotent. You're not omniscient. You don't know everything. You don't see everything. You don't hear everything. You hear a slice of yours. So, for example, we live in a society where we have professional psychic mediums that are getting scammed by fake people online. So, for example, okay, like, say there's a person that makes a post on Facebook that's like, I'm offering free readings for the first 30 people that comment. And everybody's like, me, please. They don't know this person. They don't know nothing about this person. They're seduced by the promise of something for nothing. and they're seduced by somebody giving them a clarity which they don't already possess for themselves. So just the same as if you say you're promising a safe space, that is a person that is seduced and manipulated by the promise of that which they cannot even create for themselves, and they expect someone else to create it for them. And so this is why, when you're the teacher, you're the leader, you're the space holder, everything is on you. You're completely burdened with the creation of that space. And for me to, I would never promise a safe space, because for me to promise a safe space when I'm training spiritual warriors, and psychically gifted healers who are spiritually, sexually, and creatively gifted, who potentially have the potential to make a lot of people mad, a lot of people jealous, you get canceled by a lot of people. If you're truly influential, you don't get to like have that easy safe space. You don't get that. You don't get that. If you want that easy safe space, get married to a low vibrational partner where you guys can sit on the couch watching TV and eating whatever you want to eat. Okay, you're gonna be sitting on your ass watching TV, not doing shit if you want to be comfortable. Because if you expose yourself to the public in any way, you are guaranteed to be commented on. And we live in a world now in which people go viral. But the thing is that because of the way that the internet is, people go viral for the wrong things. Because whatever is getting put in front of your face is what they want to lead you to believe anyways. So one of the things that we're seeing now that has a lot to do with race and ethnicity is that the majority of people that you see that get put in front of your face, they're mixed people. They're mixed, they're black, or they're mixed white and black, they're Asian, and they're Jewish. Or now more non-Jewish Semitic people, Arab people are getting put in public view, which is something that we've never seen before. It's been a trickle effect. So there's certain beauty standards that are being promoted and that are being advanced. This is a little bit off topic, but this is worth talking about because the way that you look is part of what draws people in. So part of creating a safe space is just who you are naturally and what people see when they look at you. And that is going to either attract or repel people, and you can't do anything about that. If they look at your face and they see, I want that, I want to connect to that, or they look at your face and they think, I don't want to connect to that. But then there's also the layer that's underneath that, which is why are they looking at your face and wanting to connect there? And that's where you'll decide whether or not mutually the space is safe. All right. Being real does not necessarily mean being disrespectful. We really are such a diverse community. I love that. Yeah, she's talking about the heaven on earth community. Exactly. Boundaries are everything. Respect of boundaries is safe space. So, and that's another thing too that I've been learning with my dog, because I sometimes tell her, you got to learn to leave people alone, because sometimes people don't recognize other people's boundaries because all they can see is what they want. In the case of lust, especially, like if say a person sees a person that they find very attractive and they're not even considering like whether or not that person wants to be approached, whether or not that person is interested in talking to them, if it's a safe environment or a safe place to do so. Like, how would you feel if someone approached you that you didn't know to try to talk to you in that environment? They'll just be blinded by what they want. And this is everybody. This is in business. You're just so blinded by what you want, and you think that other person has the ability to give it to you. So you're going to them and you're not respecting their boundaries. And like with the dogs in the dog park is like, my dog, she's a puppy. She might just want to play, but the other dog doesn't want to play. So as I tell you gotta learn to leave people and dogs alone. She said a friend of mine got braids and he got so much backlash from Black people, but like every culture uses braids. Yeah, it's like because there's this cultural dominance, um that it's people think away because of how they've been conditioned. And so this is really important for me to like, as a cultivation of my safe space for myself, is that like I'm just gonna show up as me and let people decide whether they want this or not, because I can't choose what to do based on what other people think is right for me to do. I have to make my own decision. And anybody that like says like, oh well, black people said that it's cultural appropriation to use braids, so I'm not going to braid my hair. You might potentially be letting your culture go to waste because you're acquiescing to cultural dominance of another group that you potentially might seek belonging within. And that could be understandable if you want to seek belonging in a group, if you have like more allegiances and more support in that group than in your own group or other groups. But it still denies you the full expression of who you are. You're still assimilating. And I think for me, it was very easy for me to assimilate in any community because that's what I was used to, because I always had to do that. I never really felt like I could have my authentic culture until now. It was something that I had to create for myself. Um, yeah. And I remember I had this boyfriend. He was my first serious boyfriend, and he was the son of black academics. So he was like, his parents were like in getting their PhDs when he was growing up, and he had always been around that kind of culture of like black academia and that school of thought, progressive school of thought in higher education. And he was like talking about the song with J Lo where she said the N word. Which, in case anybody wants to know, I never use language like that. Just because I might like some music that has that language. It's not really my thing because it's not the generation that I grew up in. But he was talking about J Lo saying the N word in the song with Ja Rule, and everybody was being like mad about it. And he was like, I don't know, my biggest problem is not a Latina woman, like a Puerto Rican woman from New York saying the N word. So he didn't really care. So this is kind of the homogenous, the need for homogenous thought in the safe spaces kind of denies people that like you have the option to care or not care about what you care about, because I know some people that would really care about that. And then I think it's different too depending on the context of what you say, how you say it, and when you say it to somebody. But it's so funny because I had a conversation with one of my clients recently, and she was talking about having a experience where she was on drugs, she was blacked out drunk, and she was like having sexual escapades, and then she ended the night by she's a white woman and she was with a black man, and they had a conversation, and she said that she always wanted to say the N-word, and he was like, say it, go ahead and say it. And so she was just like screaming. They were like on a lake and she was just screaming it, and it was just like so funny. And that was a safe space that he held for her. They healed something together there. And this is a conversation that most people will not be able to have. Like, your healing doesn't have to look like how it's supposed to look. Another like client was speaking about having a sexual relationship with a black man in which she's white, and this man was like cussing her out and calling her a white bitch and like basically like taking things out on her that he had experienced in life, and she was loving it. And these are things that people can actually do, not me. It's not my fetish. But I have different fetishes. That's none of y'all's business. um, but my clients talk to me about these things because they say often, literally, you're the only person that I could tell this, you're the only person that I could talk about this with. And that's the community and the climate that I want to create within my safe spaces, is that I'm not the only person you could tell about this. You could tell everybody in this room, and we're all going to be like with you. So that's not for everybody. So the reason why I want to preface the talks that I'm going to give you guys in October, because I have my whole schedule planned out for all the goddess talks that we're gonna have this month, and it had to start with creating a safe space. It had to start with cultivating a safe space, because that's how you know whether or not you feel safe here. And you're the only one that can decide that. So if you're like, what the fuck is this bitch talking about? Fuck her. I can't stand her ass. Go somewhere else. You don't have to be here. But if you feel that there's something here for you, you may need that trigger, and I may be just the person to do it. And I'm not afraid to trigger you. I can handle your big emotions. You're just a cute little baby to me. You're just a cute little baby to me. I can handle your big emotions. It's no big deal to me. Okay? This is why I do what I do. This is why I get paid the big bucks. Because I got it. Because I got the juice. She said this community is healing my relationship to women so much. Yeah, it's messed up that a lot of people, we did not have a good relationship with women in our families, and then we didn't even have a good relationship with men because they weren't even there. It's different for everybody. It depends on you. But we have a lot to heal collectively, and that's not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. We get to experience the full range of human emotions. I was blocked creatively since like last year. I did well in everything but got anxiety about writing and art, but my brain feels like a computer with math, and my emotions were blocked too. I've stemmed all my life, and my family made fun of me for it. Yeah, so some of you guys know that stimming is part of our Heaven on Earth Reiki practice. Heaven on Earth Reiki is not like any other Reiki style. If you resonate with me and with my content, and you want to do something like what I do, like you want to be more comfortable being visible, you want to create your own course, your own community, your own safe space for yourself, I definitely recommend working with me in any capacity that I have available that resonates with you, because it will help you get there. We've been children, we see the patterns, we can speak on our life experience, period. We don't need a credential to speak our minds. Yeah, this she's talking about when I was saying, like, people are like, oh well, you're not a parent, so you don't know what you're talking about. But I'm a psychic medium. It's a little different. I don't have to be an expert the way that academia requires. Dude, when I saw my aunt and cousins last, they haven't even been in my life, but they were being weird as fuck, asking my sister and I if we were virgins. We were still teenagers. Family members not there for you, but want to get info to gossip. Exactly. So then they can be like, oh, can you believe that such and such children are just such little sluts? Yeah, they love to talk that shit so they can feel better about their own parenting. Not to be rude, but you sound damaged. No one is annoyed or mad about what you do, but normalizing this type of behavior is not going to do anything because it has always been looked down upon. If you're Middle Eastern, you should know this. I have no idea what that person is talking about. Gemini's, ha ha ha. Yes, I am preparing to hold my own being online. Yeah, see? So let's break down this comment. Not to be rude, but you sound damaged. You're absolutely trying to be rude because you're calling me damaged when I'm completely being open about my issues and what I have problems with. And I am damaged. I've been abused. And like, I don't know how much more clearly I have to say that, like, literally Black people have like consistently like have consistently like tried to keep me from professional opportunities, tried to cut me out, tried to use me, like tried to, because they were more comfortable with me than with a regular white person. So this is like, I don't know how much more clearly I can say it. I do not care about pacifying somebody else. I don't know what you're even talking about. If you're Middle Eastern, you should know this. I don't know if this is like the same person that commented before that was like, well, if you say our genocide didn't exist, your genocide didn't exist either. I don't care. Like, I don't need you to co-sign my genocide for me to feel safe with you. I don't care. I be out here in the mix. I actually know real people in real life. I actually live my life. I'm not one of these internet minions. I'm just a real ass bitch. There's no shame in being damaged. Projection. Exactly. Like, it's like, come on. You don't come on here talking about I'm damaged when you know you're damaged. You know you're damaged. And there's healing for you here if you would choose to allow it, but you won't. And instead you want to be an internet troll. but this is a really important thing for me to model for my students, my clients, and my audience, is that like you are going to have people comment on you when you make yourself available for that. And by me opening this space up and speaking authentically about who I am opening myself up to love just as much as I'm opening myself up to hate. And I'm okay with that, because at the end of the day, I know that actually like the love and the hate are the same thing, because they're really just a reflection of that person's inner world. Like you can only love me as much as you love yourself. I'm not on here to be a parasocial influencer that like just like feeds off attention. Like I'm actually offering reciprocity, and that's why my audience is like pretty small, but I'm preparing to grow bigger, and part of me growing bigger is being able to handle people feeling any kind of way and looking at it like, looking at that person is like, I don't see you as an adult. I see you as a 5-year-old that's got your feelings hurt. Like, and I think that a lot of times when people are coming to these conversations, I know for a fact with certain relationships that I've had that they've come to me with wounds that were from childhood, and that's a huge burden to put on someone else to try to fix that. It's not fair. Like, I'm not willing to take on that burden. And that's why I was speaking on earlier, is that sometimes people go to interracial relationships, and I think it can be as simple as like gravitating towards certain people on YouTube, or just like liking certain people, and what the inner monologue is like, this is my friend. And like, even when it's in person, like I've been a lot of people's first Arab friend and first friend that wasn't their same race so many times. It's never bothered me, but it started to after a while, because I seen how much that people just sort of took advantage of it, and that I didn't really require this is what we're going to get into, because we're going to talk about the truth about racism, but we're priming this. And because one of the whole reason why the need for this conversation on safe spaces has been spurred is because of people taking issue with certain things that I've said, which were clearly my viewpoints, and where I didn't have the same issues. Like nobody had issues with me when I didn't speak on these things. But that's the issue right there, is like you were okay with me, and you were okay with my silence because it allowed you to put something else in between of what you thought that it would be. But then when it comes to the actual truth, then you're offended and you don't even know me, and that has further reaching implications for you in your personal life with anybody that you actually do know. So for me, like this is why, for me, creating a safe space, I've had to create structure, I've had to create boundaries. I didn't know all this stuff before. When I started, I just had myself right there in the middle of everything. I let everybody have access to me, and then they could just, try to ruin my reputation and try to take opportunities away from me and try to damage my relationships, and it worked. Those times it worked, and so I had to learn what to do to protect myself and to protect what's mine, and to honor what's mine, and not let people just take it away from me so easily. And that's how I developed Root Lock, and that's why I teach in Root Lock, and everybody is welcome there. But a lot of people are not going to be able to handle the accountability and the self actualization and the self responsibility that is necessary to go through that process. And it's a process that I've been through. And that's why you're not going to hear or see a lot of people talking about any of these things that I'm talking about, or like being so blunt and so real with these conversations as I can be. It's going to trigger people. And so we're going to get into the rest of the conversation. So the upcoming live streams all through October and into November, I have these scheduled up until Root Lock starts. Root Lock starts on the 9th of November, and then we're going to have our Heaven on Earth party, 11/11. So check my site for more info on that. But I'm really, really excited, and I wanted to give these talks as a way to really ground in the space, to let everybody know what they're getting with me, and I can let everybody know what I'm expecting from them. And then if it's not compatible, it's not compatible. If it is compatible, then let's go. Let's go. So next week we're going to talk about the truth about Reiki, okay? And that's part 2. So in between, you're gonna want to watch the Truth About Reiki Part 1. That's on my channel. That's gonna get you started. But we're gonna do a really deep dive. And what's gonna be so crazy is you guys are gonna see how all these things relate to one another. So we're starting with the truth about safe spaces. We're gonna go into the truth about Reiki Part 2. Next week, the week after that is going to be the truth about racism, the truth about slavery, the truth about sex work, and the truth about Reiki Part 3. So I'm really excited to unveil this scholarship to you guys. This is what this is. And it's really funny because I was thinking about however long ago that was, when the Barbie movie came out and Sinead O'Connor died in the same week. And I was so pissed because I was like, this is such bullshit. For me, being a girly girl revolutionary, like, I was like, this is such bullshit. Because everybody's acting like they care about this stuff and like they love it, and they fucking don't. Unless it's fake or in death. But when it's real, they try to suppress it and stifle it and try to end it, and they can't stand to see the shine. So, it's such bullshit. So, yeah, I'm really that. When Sinead O'Connor criticized the Catholic Church, like, tons of people threatened to kill her. Who's protecting her? But then when she dies, everybody wants to act like they're so sad. But do you see how much she inspired so many people? But they literally had no ability to protect her in life. Like, she was all alone. She was on her own. Her and her bodyguards. So a lot of the fears that come with creating a safe space is because, like, what you actually have to do to create the safe space is you might potentially have to take on world powers and multinational organizations that have very real, like, occult knowledge that they use to oppress other people. Everybody was all excited about the Barbie movie, and Barbie was like being a bad bitch or whatever. I don't fucking know. I did not see the movie. I really wanted to at the time, but I don't even want to anymore. This is the thing. Like, I barely watch movies. Like, I barely watch TV. I barely listen to modern music. Like, because I have since 2018, every month, like clockwork, cycles and cycles and cycles, I have deconstructed the mind control and the mental conditioning to myself, in myself, so much that I don't even resonate with that stuff. And most people haven't done this, so you're not really on my level if you haven't. And that's why, like, I used to take things to heart, like when people would say, like, you're the way you're being is harmful. Like, I used to take it to heart because I wasn't really secure. And that's something that a lot of survivors of sexual abuse deal with, is because you have been violated and you don't want to do it to anybody else, but you don't necessarily know how to not. So I taught myself how to not. I learned how, and other people taught me and learned me how to. And I have a whole protocol for it. And that's part of creating generational wealth, because that's one of the reasons why a lot of people deal with the generational poverty, is not just because they're poor, but because of the actions that are contributing to continuing the cycles, which people don't realize that they're doing because they seem normal. And so there's a lot of people will say, like, you say you're fighting demons, but it's really the consequences of your actions. But they're the same thing, because the actions that somebody makes from that place, that's all that they know. So, you know, like, they're gonna do things that don't necessarily um, align with what a person would do if they weren't suffering from those generational curses. And that's how they perpetuate themselves. So even taking the time for us to talk about this and break it down and to not let ourselves be silenced, a lot of people do not understand the level of indoctrination that they've received through cultural belonging in their group. And they understand very well when it's other people, but they don't understand with themselves. So, for example, a person like this might be like, if they're coming from a college background and they're, you know, uh, they'll they're creating alliances with people based on a shared enemy. So that would be like a black person and a Middle Eastern would. It's not. That's not a real thing. So it would say, and then it's like, even if I say a black person and an Arab person, that's not a real thing. Those aren't real dichotomies. Like, none of these are real dichotomies. They're not even real labels. It's just we have no language to actually communicate about the things that we want to communicate about, but that just goes to show you that they really don't matter. And when you look at why is the Arab world and Arab people in the Middle East, Southwest Asia, North Africa so vilified in the United States? Same reason that a place like Cuba is so vilified in the United States, because it shows the diversity of humanity. It shows who we really are. And I was saying that a lot of the things that I teach that you'll learn from me, you will not be able to learn from many people that are not either avid white supremacists or black nationalists who, like, either way have a genocidal agenda that they think that other people besides themselves shouldn't exist. But they might have certain caveats, like if you have enough melanin, or if you're this, or if you have a shared enemy, or if you have enough, if you're not dark, and if you're not too dark, you like whatever their quota is for fitting in with them. But really it boils down to that, like, you're not safe there, you're not safe with them. And when one person isn't safe in a place, then it's not safe. Like, if one person is excluded from a space, then it's an exclusionary space, no matter who it is. So I learned this from my teacher in my acting class, because one of the students in the acting class was very, like, aggressive with his acting, and it scared a lot of people off. But instead of my teacher telling this person, like, you can't come back to class because you're scaring everybody off, she just let it continue, which some might be like, oh, she's being so passive, she's not creating a safe space. She's not, they would blame her, and they would say she's not creating a safe space because she's letting this aggressive guy do whatever. But she was consistent with her boundary setting with him, but he was consistent with his crossing boundaries of her and everybody else. But what ended up having to happen was that everybody that came to the class, they had to boss up, and they had to hold their own with him and put him in his place, and not be intimidated or forced to back down or take themselves out of the equation. So who's really creating a safe space? Somebody that makes it so that you're not triggered and that you're comfortable with everything that they're doing, or somebody that creates a space in which you can actually hold your own and practice what that looks like in a loving community where people actually they want to be there. They want to be there, and they want to create loving community, even if they may fall short sometimes. So on that note, I'm going to leave you guys here. We're going to have the dark feminine, the divine dark feminine mystery school next week. So this is just a little mystery school 3-day event that I'm putting together for us before Friday the 13th to really drop down sensually into our dark feminine energy. And that's your shadow. And your shadow is all the things that you're not supposed to be. So one of the things about me is that I'm very in tune with my shadow. I show up as almost all shadow. Usually when people see me, they see my shadow. But if they don't see my shadow, then later on they might feel tricked or deceived. Like, I thought she was so kind and so sweet, and she's so evil and mean and mysterious and whatever else they think. But that's not, but it's just a perception. Like, all of those things can be true at once. And in order for you to really hold your own as a divine feminine being on this earth, you have to be dark. You have to be in touch with your darkness. You have to love that part of you. You have to love all parts of you so that you can love all parts of everyone, so that you can embrace your life experiences and let everything go through you, not try to stop it, not try to control it, not try to protect yourself from it and keep yourself safe from it, but to really be in tune with your needs and your boundaries at any given moment of the day so that you can move accordingly, so that you are safe because you make yourself safe. Because the universe will keep you safe if you keep yourself safe. Other people will keep you safe if you keep yourself safe. It all depends on you, and you cannot outsource that to anybody. Outsourcing your safety to someone else is a very good way to become very unsafe very fast, and not only for the world to be unsafe for you, but for you to be unsafe to others as well. So think about that. I'm going to leave you with that, and tune in next week for our goddess talks. I am really inspired. I would love to hear what you guys think. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, say mashallah, leave your comments down below, put in your 2 cents. That's a great way to practice if you, even if you struggle with fawning or people pleasing or going mute, going silent, avoiding, you know, if it's hard for you to say what you think, say what you think right here. It's a safe space, even if you hated it. I'm not going to get mad, but I may have a response, and you have to be okay with that, because just like I have to be okay with you having a response to me when you show up, you're also giving me permission to have a response to you too. And that can be the hardest thing for a lot of people, is not wanting to be seen, especially when you may not be seen in the most positive light. But that doesn't mean that you're any less worthy, or that you're any less loved, or any less worthy of love. On that note, shop my site, rootchakragoddess.love. Check out our community at hoesarehealers.com, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.